Hello students, I hope you have seen last video. In this video, you have to learn about the forms of communication, or you can also use the types of communication. In the organization, there are the different level you have learned in the last videos. And according to the GTU examination, uh, the one question is asked in the GTU examination is the process of communication, and second question is asked by GTU is the form of communication. Sometime they can also use the types of communication. So both questions or both words are same. So we can start that the what are the form of communication and what are the types of communication. So let's start it. In the face-to-face communication, message is conveyed on the two levels simultaneously. Means in when you communicate with the other person, at that time your communication level is working on the two level basis. First one is the verbal and second one is a non-verbal. In the at the verbal level, they can work at the 35% and at the non-verbal level working at the 65 percentage. For example, saying congrats to your friends with smile. When you communicate with your person, but you can communicate only one word congrats, but when you give the smile to your friend, it's a biggest or it's working at the 65% of your communication level. So your facial expressions are also very important for your communication. When you communicate with your friends and say only congrats, but when you say congrats with the smile, its impact very highly on your friends and on your communication way. So here are the types of communication. There are the mainly two types of communication. First one is the verbal communication and second one is a non-verbal communication. In the verbal communication, there are the two types. First one is a oral communication and written communication. Second is a using any language. When you use any language, maybe Gujarati, Hindi, English or any other language, and you can write or you can say, it's a verbal communication. But non-verbal communication is there are no use of any language, means you cannot utter any word or you can not write anything, means you can communicate only with your facial expression, with your gesture and postures. It's called the non-verbal communication. There are the two types, maybe oral or maybe visual. Sometimes your expression is the visual form of your communication as a non-verbal type of communication. So there are the main two types of communication is the verbal communication and non-verbal communication. So it's a word or maybe you can use the sign. It's when you use the words is the verbal communication, and when you use the signs, posture, facial expressions, it's called the non-verbal communication. Then after, non-verbal communication is based on the scientific study to share your feeling in any personal or professional communication, including the all unwritten and unspoken messages. It's the one type of non-verbal communication. So here are the types of non-verbal communications, and you can also consider the body language is as a non-verbal communication. So first one, the there are the ways of talking. On in the which way you can talk with the other person, it's a one type of your non-verbal communication. Like example, poses stress on the word. Sometime you communicate with your friends, at the time you can given the stress on the one word, so it's a very important communication, so it's a consider as the non-verbal communication. Then after, posture. Your posture is your one type of non-verbal communication. Sometimes you feel the sadness and your posture may be weak, so it's a one type of your non-verbal communication. Then after, appearance. Your appearance, it's a one type of non-verbal communication. Your head movement. Sometimes some students are nodding their heads in the class, so they can give the information or they can communicate information that they can understand whatever teacher said or whatever the professors are studying in the class. So it's a one type of non-verbal communication. Then after, hand movement. Sometimes some people have talk and then after waving their hands. So waving the hands is a one type of communication, that you can say bye to other people or hi, you can say hello. So it's a one type of hand movements is also considered as the non-verbal communication. Then after, eye movements. So winking your eyes, it's a one type of non-verbal communication. Then facial expressions. Then after, body contact. Then you can contact like shaking the hands with other people's. Then closeness means inviting someone's space is a, all are topics you have to study in detail in the after these slides. Then after, sound means laughing. When you laughing but you cannot telling anything, but you have laughed, so it's a one type of the communication, that you are happy or you can understand what the other people say to you. Then after, in the non-verbal communication, first one is a kinesis. So in the kinesis, there are the study of body's physical movement. It's a one type of study or one type of non-verbal communication study. In this communication done without any words, so then and then we call this communication is a non-verbal communication. Example, that communicate using the various movements of the parts of your body, like signs and the languages. For example, movement of your hands, blinking of your eyes, waving of your hands is a one type of kinesis. Kinesis, you can simply say that the movement of your body is a one type of kinesis, means non-verbal communication. Here is the one type of example, that sometimes you can take, you can punch, you can sign this, like here is a one example, you can this see this, that you can in this picture you can see that you can communicate the other person that please silent. It's a excellent one. Then when you win any situation or win any competition, and this type of finger you have do and gave the sign to other people. Then when you angry with another people, then when you wish any person the best of luck, it's a one type of sign. And when you given the warning to other peoples, so it's a one type of posture is called the kinesis. Then after, personal appearance. What are they? Play the important role. People see you before they hear you. When in the you can also hear the one dialogue, or one time you can also hear this formula that first impression is the last impression. So when you gave your interview and when you contact any person, at that time a person firstly see you, so your personal appearance or your body gestures and postures are affected the peoples. So people firstly see you and then after hear you. So first impression is mandate, or we can say very important for your career, for your interviews timing. So personal appearance is a one type of non-verbal communication. Why? It includes the clothes, your hairs, your jewelries, your cosmetics. So there are the one type of your personal appearance. There are the one type of part of messages. Here is the example is given to you that here is there are the five persons who are going for some interviews. Here is the one person is the here is a one person have the hostile attitude, means he is the very appreciative, we can say very close minded people, because he can tie their hands. Here is the person who is interested in your working. Then after, he is a person who is the think very stupid, because the gesture of him is very bad. Then after, here is the person who hiding something, but what they cannot know. Here is the person is very lying, means very insensitive, and they cannot have any idea what done in the organization. So here the gestures and postures of your personal appearance is also minded for your examples, for your interviews. So there are the one type of your non-verbal communication. Then after, posture. Posture means what? How we hold ourselves when we stand. Some people stand very badly, so its impact on your communication way. So when how you stand, how you sit, how you walk is a one type of your postures. That based on the situations, postures changes. According to situation, your postures are also changes one by one. For example, in the interview, at home, in the college, etc., different posture. At the home, your postures are different. At the college, your postures are different. At the interview time, your postures are different. So different situation have the different postures. Then after, due to nervousness and the lack of confidence, stage fear. Sometimes some people have this type of stage fears and lack of confidence, so they can not communicate to other people. They can biting their they can biting their nails. Sometimes peoples can have the handkerchief, so they can only transfer the handkerchief from one hand to another hand. So it's a one type of your nervousness of regarding the interview, regarding the stage fear is appears. It's a non-verbal communication. Movement of your shoulders, then freezing with your notes, then constantly moving. Some people have the nervousness and they cannot stand at the one place. They can move here and there. So it's a one type of your gestures, and it's affect your overall we can say your communication way. Then after, here is the one example is given for your postures, that in this first posture you can see that the person is very tired. so its posture is very badly, is a tired, and is a person who is enthusiasm, who have the confidence regarding the work, regarding the interview. So its posture is this. So signals is conveyed through the postures, like slump posture is a low spirit. When your posture is slump, at that time any person can easily communicate that your confidence level is very low. Then erect postures, when your high spirit and energy and confidence, at that time your posture is very different. Then after, lean forward means open, honest and interested. Um, your when your posture is lean forward means when you honest, when you interested regarding the any topic, regarding the any product, regarding the any problems, at that time your posture is lean. Then after, cross arms, some people are crossing their arms at the time of interviews, at the times of college, at the time the college classroom studies, and at the times of interview. So it's a one type of defensive or not ready to listen, is a one type of cross arms, is stated that you cannot ready regarding the any communication or regarding the any decision. Then uncross arms. Uncross arms is state that willingness to listen. Sometime you have the power, you have interested regarding the communication which is done, and you are interested for this communication. Then after, gesture. Gesture means what? Gesture means movement of your hands, arms, shoulders, head and etc. is called the gesture. Mostly used to clarify your ideas. When you clarify your ideas, it's a one type of your gesture. It has been observed that there are 7 lakhs varied gesture, means 7 lakhs types of the gestures are available. So let's see, there are the some gestures are given to you, that gesture can be divided into the following types. First one is enumerative, means numbers. When you numbers like 2, 3, 4, it's a one type of enumerative gesture. Then second is the descriptive. Descriptive means size of the object. Sometimes you can sign that this type of object bigger or higher. This type of object you gave the sign is a one type of your descriptive gesture. Then after, symbolic. Symbolics is a one type of your abstract concept, means you can give the symbol and total information about the situation, is the one type of your abstract concept, means the symbolic concept. Then locative. Locative means the location of the object. Sometimes you give the sign that this object is here, this object is there. So it's a one type of your non-verbal communication. Then after, empathic or emphasis. Emphasis means when you given some type of empathy, or Gujarati, in the Gujarati you can say that empathy means sahanubhuti. When you give the empathy to the other peoples through the signals and through the signs, it's a one type of your non-verbal communication. Then after, facial expressions. Face is the most expressive part of our body. When you sad, when you happy, when you angry, when you diplomatic, your face is still the all information which is done in your mind. So face is the main part of our body who express the ideas, who express uh, our total mindset regarding which um, we have thought, regarding which have we have decided, so regarding which I feel. So all the things about the feeling, about the decision making, about the knowledge, about the decision, about the thoughts, all are expressed by our facial expressions. So the face is the one type of expressive part of our body. Like first one, smile. When you smile, it's conducted or it's say that you are happy. Then frown means you discontent or maybe disapproval. So at that time your face is tell that you cannot okay. Then rise eyebrow. Sometimes you raise the eyebrow means disbelief, means this happens, this not appropriate or this cannot be done. So there are the one type of non-verbal communication way. Face send a series of message at the time. Our face is given the information at the time, they can give the number of information. So there are the some facial expressions are that the you can see here that the one boy is given the total expression like happy, frown, and raise their eyebrows. So there are the facial expressions of the communication. Then after, eye contact. Eye contact is very important. When you given any speech or when you communicate with the other people, at that time your eye contact is very important. Sometimes you can see that some peoples or some authors or we can say that some evaluators give their speech. At that time their eye contact is not done with the audience. If they cannot do the eye contact the audience can bore, audience can not interested in their speech. So eye contact is very very important. When you give speech, at that time your audience is sit there, and your eye contact with your audience is very important. If you cannot do the eye contact, you cannot connected with them, you cannot connect your information with them. So it's a very important. Then after, direct and powerful from the non-verbal communication. If you cannot communicate a single way, but you can easily do this information via eye contact. So eye contact is very important. Like from our history, take the example of the Rani Lakshmi Bai. If the Rani Lakshmi Bai is talk with the we can say that the Firangis, at that time she talk with the eye contact with them. So eye contact is very important. When truth, intelligence, attitudes, feelings, attention, involvement, interest. When you do the eye contact with the other people's, when you give the speech or when you give the information, at that time your involvement with your audience is very high. So most important in the presentation, when you give the presentation, at that time your eye contact with your audience is very much needed. So what are the source of feedbacks? It's the eye contact is necessary. Then after, proxemics is in the examination of the GTU in 2019's paper, they can ask the question that what is the meaning of proxemics, what is the meaning of kinesis, and what is the meaning of paralinguist. So there are the words also asked in examination, so you can also prepare for that. then if they cannot ask the full question at the 7 marks or 14 marks, they can ask the question at the 7 marks from the different definitions. So you can also prepare for that. Then what is the proxemics? So study for the physical space is the one type of proxemics. Like based on the space, people can change their behavior, share their ideas, experience, etc. Express the control and authority. For example, head of the company has the larger office than the employees. Your gesture according to available space. Okay, means in the which space you have, like as the manager, your cabin, your office is larger than the employees. At that time your proxemics means your physical space is higher. Why? Because you have control over the numbers of various peoples in your organization. As you know that the organization have working the various peoples, like at the top level management, middle, bottom. So as a manager you can solve the queries of the all the people. So the space of your office is higher than the other employees. Then after, there are the 4 divisions. First one is the intimate, means 0 to 1.5, means family, relatives and parents. For example, mother and child relations, it's the intimates. Then second is the personal, from 1.5 to 4, means close friends and colleagues. For example, normal talk in the friends, with your colleagues, with your families. So it's a one type of personal communication. Then social is considered from 4 to 12, means relationships are more official, more formal communication between the few peoples. When you communicate with your friends and when you communicate with your employers is a different type of communication, because in the which language and in the which way you communicate with your colleagues, with your friends, in this way you cannot communicate with your employers, with your managers, with your boss. So it's a one type of different communication way. Then after, public, that are the higher than 12, means a large audience. For example, government to public. When you can take the example that our PM communicate with our public at the radio station Man Ki Baat. Okay, so it's a one type of the public communication. Here is a one diagram is given to you, that there are the physical space and there are the intimate space is the first one. Then after, personal space, social space and the public space. Public space is larger than this 3 space, because in the public space they can consider all over the large media, or we can say the large public of your communication. So there are the main 4 divisions of your communication way. Then after, paralinguistics or the paralanguages, the characteristics of your voice. When you communicate with the other peoples, at that time your communication quality, your speech, it's very important, is mandatory, it's a very compulsory important. First one is the quality of speech. Unique voice for all person. All person have the different quality of voice. My voice is different, your voice is different, and different people have the different voice and different voice tone. Then after, volume, the loudness and softness. Some people have the louder voice, some people have the soft voice. So different people have the different type and the different type of their voice volume. Then rate, number of words per minute. Some peoples have have speak very speedily. At the time, their rate of words means per minute they can speak very highly, and some people have speak very slow. So at that time the rate, or we can say there are the one word per minute is very low. Then after pitch, number of vibrations per second, rise and fall of the voice. Sometimes some people have the pitch of voice very high, and sometimes the people have the variation of the speech is very lower. Then articulations, that some sound there are omit between the word. If some people are if some peoples have doing their communication, at that time the some words have omit, means they can speak very fast, so they can omit the words. Then after pronunciation, sometimes pronunciations are very important, that how you pronunciate it. Then pause, if you communicate with the other peoples, but pauses is very important. If you communicate hard and fast and very speedily, at that time other people's or other audience cannot hear or cannot understand what you say. Okay, so pauses are also very important. Then after, Chronomis means the study of time, means attempt to control the time, how to use the time more effectively. For example, punctuality means when you speak at the time, your communication speak means in the which way you communicate. Study of time means when you speak you can understand the time value, at which time you speak, it's very important. If you speak at the wrong time, it's create the disaster of your company, of your organization, and sometimes it's also create the disaster for your life. So study of time is very important, at which time you deliver your speech, at the which time you speaks is very important. So attempt to control the time. When you speak with anybody, or with when you speak at that time, you can analysis the total time series, that in the which way and which time you communicate this information. So whenever you speak at that time, you can communicate that this way, and you can communicate that the right information at the right time. So time is very important. Then after, punctuality means for the company, for the organization, they can communicate their they can communicate their total information with their public, with their shareholders, with their with their BODs, with their managers at the AGM. AGM means annual general meeting. At the annual general meeting, they can given the total, we can say the total idea regarding the business, regarding their profits, regarding their losses. So it's a one best time for the communication. If the CEO cannot communicate this information in the AGM, so it's create a disaster for their company. So when you communicate at that time, you can totally analyze the firm, analyze your situation, and then after you can communicate. So there are the main types of the communication: verbal and non-verbal. There are also asked in examination individually, so you can prepare for it. I hope you can understand about it. Thank you so much.